All right, today we have Sven Andersen on our podcast today. Thank you for coming in, Sven.
Oh,
Nice.
I'm so excited to be here. This is great. Thanks for the
Yeah,
opportunity.
I am really excited to learn more about who you are and your team. So, do you want to just start off by letting us know how you got into real estate to begin with, and then what led you to start a real estate team?
Yeah. Uh, let's see. Way back I started in 2002. I was in the tech sector. I got laid off from my job. I was selling people that would ethically hack into computer network systems, and um, I actually just got out of that business and I basically started into real estate. I got a severance package from this company. We were selling people that would break into computer network systems, and then we would sell the resource. I would sell the resources back to the telecommunications companies that I was working with. And I basically they gave me a package, and my wife looks at me, who was a school teacher at the time, and said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to sell real estate." And I said, she's like, "You're crazy." And I said, "Well, I think it'd be a fun area to be into." And my father was a builder way back when, and I wanted to explore it. And so I got into real estate and never looked back.
That's
So
interesting. You
it,
hacked into things.
well, we would sell ethical hacking
Oh,
services.
you would sell it.
I would sell the people that would break into computer network systems, and then we would sell the services back to the people, to the telecommunications companies, which was pretty
That
cool.
is very interesting. And so then you started in real estate. Have you always been in the city that you started in real estate, or have you moved at all?
No, I've been in the same place ever since. I've been doing this for 23 years now, and it's been a roller coaster of a ride. It's been fun. It's been exciting. I quite honestly, I almost got out of this business in 2008, nine. My wife looked at me and I was spending so much money. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
"What are you doing?" And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "Why don't you get a real job?" I was like,
Oh
"Oh, a real
boy.
job." And well,
Ouch.
'cause that it was with the time where I was spending a lot of money to do a online newsletter, or a newsletter at the time that was a print newsletter. And I just, she was just like, "You're spending so much money. Why are you doing that?" And started to look back at it, and I'm glad that that was the reality slap. I talked to a couple friends of mine, and they basically said, "Stay in this business and do what you need to do, tighten your budget and be smart with running a business instead of having the business run you." And I switched gears, held myself a little bit more accountable to what I was doing, and at that time, the next year, I became the rookie of the year for a company named Remax. So I was in New
Oh, look.
England.
We have
That was
that
way,
same blood. I have that
yeah.
history as well too. So
Yeah.
curious with your so when you talked about shifting gears and being more business minded, is that when you started thinking about having a real estate team? Like how many years were you solo before you started thinking about that?
It's funny. First year I sold 8 houses. I was just talking to we had a team retreat just this week, and I was talking to my team, and they were looking at it and saying, "You sold 8 houses," and
In a
I
whole
was like,
year.
in a whole year. People were like, "You sold 8 houses," and I was like, "Yeah, that's how I first started." And I first started. I didn't know anybody in this town, and I got started with my broker at the time saying, "Here's a phone book," and I was like, "What's this?" He's
Oh
like,
my
"That's how you
gosh.
get leads." And I said, "What?" He's like, "Go start with A and go through the phone book, call everybody, and ask them if they would like a complimentary market analysis of their house." And I was like, "That's the lead gen tool that you gave me?" Yeah, that's what I did, and I started that way.
That's
And I have to
insane.
tell you that one of the best things I ever did, because it put me in such a weird, awkward, uncomfortable lead generating kind of place.
Yeah.
I grew from that, and I was grateful for that piece. So I challenged myself, and I just, in a rented apartment, we were in my back room at night after hours. My wife, I was be calling all these people. My wife's like, "Are you crazy?" And I'm like, "This is what I'm doing," and
Yeah.
I'm not giving up. So I was a single agent for about 3 years, but the first year into the business, I hired an assistant.
Okay.
I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. I know I hate paperwork. I love talking
Yes.
to people, but I hate paperwork. And so after the first year, I was shooting photos. I was doing everything. I was shooting photos of the houses. I was, negotiating deals. I was lead generating. I was doing all those things, and I just hated the paperwork. So some one of my clients said, would you ever look for an assistant to help you? And she's like, I want a job. And I gave her a job. She was my assistant for 3 years. And then we grew from there. I added another team member working with buyers specifically. And then I started doing just the listing sides, and we've grown ever since. So it's been a pretty great place to be. So
Did
it's
you
good.
just end up organically growing in terms of, okay, you have an assistant now? And then was it out of necessity that you're thinking, oh, I should get a buyer's agent, or was there some strategy involved with that?
You know, I've seen. I was a member of Star Power, and with way back when, and Star Power. There's a lot of friends of mine that it was Howard Britton's Star Power way back when. It was a really cool program, and I used to go every year to those things. And I've been a lot of my really dear and great real estate friends from that organization, and they helped guide me through the process. Like, you could be a solo practitioner, or you can be a team. You could be a team leader. You can run a group. You can do different things. And what I loved is I love collaboration. I don't love working alone. I love watching people grow and thrive, and I love supporting and helping them grow. And I found my passion in that. Like, I love teaching, and I love guiding, and I love the success when somebody comes to me and said, thank you for the guidance that you gave me on the negotiation process with this deal. High five, I got it closed. Like, to me, that's the biggest gift that anybody could give me. And
Right.
it just refuels my energy and tank, and it just brings me great joy. So I focus on that. And so I learned that doing this by yourself, it's a lonely business. And I use an analogy of a juggler, right? And you're like, what do you mean? You're like, you're juggling lead generation, you're juggling marketing, you're juggling home inspections and negotiations, and social media, and you're juggling, transaction management, and all these things, and you're bound to drop a ball.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I got my assistant in the first place, and I started to grow and change and do what I really love doing, which is actually negotiating transactions and deals, and engaging clients and people, and building relationships. And I think if you're in this business and you're struggling with it a little bit, it's you got to find your niche and what your groove is. And I love, you asked the question like, what made you change? I'm like, I just love working with people, and I didn't want to do it alone.
Right. And so when it comes to attracting agents to your team, for one, do you attract agents, or do you just have a small team, big team? What is your team? What does your team look like now?
Yeah, so we're nine people. We actually, well, we're 12 people. We have two VAs in the Philippines. We actually have, which is my personal assistant, and another VA. We actually have a transaction manager. We have a runner. We have a sign install guy, and then we have five team agents. That's actually six now. Excuse me. Myself, our director of operations, and our transaction coordinator. And
Okay.
so ultimately, we're growing, and so we're actually actively hiring 2 to 3 more agents before the end of the year, and we'll hire 4 more next year. So our growth path is on track to do what we need to do to achieve our goals. And being right just north of Boston, we love the fact that we can serve a really specific market segment, but we're doing a lot with builders and investors. We're doing a lot with folks that are looking for, well, like your YouTube channel, like, right, finding families. Our whole
Mm-hmm.
goal is to make sure that we serve clients at a really high level, and families want to come to our market in our area because of schools, because of the proximity to Boston and the train and support like that. So that's our team. And we attract a lot of different people because of the culture that we bring to the table.
So,
um,
can you tell me a little bit about more about the culture and what your culture is compared to another team in your city? Like, why would somebody want to come over to the Anderson Group Realty versus another group?
yeah, that's an excellent question. And I want great people that are humble, hungry, and people smart. You know, there's a great book out there about that, and I think one of the things that you want to do is you want to actually have the people that lift each other up.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have some individuals that are no longer part of our organization that were individuals on a team,
Yeah.
I can't have individuals on a team. I want to have team players, and once I have team players, we win. And I think that's the biggest struggle that I face is that you've got to have those people that are willing to chip in and help others, and that's the environment we have and created. And I think a lot of people uh, that are in this world of real estate really don't have that experience with other people. And I think what's great about it is we lift each other up, we help each other, we support each other, and it's like a kumbaya kind of conversation right now. Reality is that this is a tough business.
Yes.
People are interviewing with us, and if we interview hundreds of people a year, I don't want to take hundreds of people. I don't want 100 people interviewing with me. If we take 5 or 6 people, maybe, but we have standards that we set for everybody. You've got to sell a minimum of 12 houses a year with our team. You've got to make a number of phone calls and connections every day. You've got to make sure that you do those different tasks so that you can stay on point, because if you do, you win.
Right.
And we hold people accountable to it, and whether they like that or not, that's what that's attracted to the team. And I think when they see success, success builds success, and people that are on our team and that have success, they want to lift each other up and help others. And I think it's really cool to see. We had a new team agent join us, last week and a half, and she's like, I'm so honored and blessed to be on your team, and to see the people that are here, the caliber of people, really helped me a lot. And it's just a different experience than you've had in another world. And I think it sounds kind of kumbaya and like this whole weird like cult thing, but I really want to have people around me that lift each other up and help each other. And I think that's what's cool about our team and why people want to join our organization. And some people don't come in there like, I don't want to do what you're requesting me to do, right? Like,
Great.
I
Then
don't
it's
want
not a
to.
fit. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. I mean, I sat with somebody and they're like, here's what we do. I'm about making sure that people's health is important to them. Like we talk about their mental stability. We talk about negotiation tactics. We talk about lead generation. We talk about life things too. And I think that matters in this world, because here's the deal. You can work anywhere. You could sell real estate for anyone in any way. Why here? Like, if you really want to be part of an organization that's growing, that's pushing you and making you better, then that's where you want to go. I
Right.
think that's different.
And do you guys have, you talked about accountability and you have a director of operations. Is your director of operations in charge of the agents, or are you in charge of the agents in terms of their production and their sales? Do you guys use technology to track the activity?
Yeah, we have systems in place to do all of that. So that's unusual too, right? When somebody starts in this business, well, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I do? Do I use a CRM product? Do I just use a spreadsheet? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I mean, how many dials do I have to make? Like, we have algorithms, so we know how many, for this amount of money that you want to make in our average price point at this commission structure for this number of transactions, you'll make this much money. If
You
you do the
speak my language. I totally. But there's also agents. There's two types of agents. There's agents like yourself who are more systematic, like you and me. And then there's the other agent that is they're really good with people, and they don't know how to hire an assistant because they don't even know what to train them on because they're just so, right. So that's why I see different teams. Like your
Yeah,
team is very systematic, and then there's other teams, like if there's other people that are like, should I start a team? If they're listening to this podcast, they're going, oh, I want what Sven has. Well, if you are not systematic in any sort of way, then you do need to hire someone that will help you with that. Because what I heard you say was you don't like paperwork. I hear you. Me neither. That's why my first hire was an assistant. I'd rather have an assistant than a nanny to watch my children so I could do paperwork, which I hate.
so true.
Yeah.
Well, my director of operations has helped me grow and change and put systems in place and hold people accountable and track the numbers and understand all those things. And I want to be able to do this. I want to be
Mm.
able to have a podcast. I want to be able to talk to people. I want to build relationships. I want to make sure that we follow up on the referral opportunities from a California agent who calls me and says, Sven, can you help this client whose house isn't sold? And I'm at their house in 24 hours because my assistant's not, the email's not falling through the cracks, and my assistant's making sure that everything's followed through. And like, there's no, there's no chinks in the armor that like there used to be as a solo
Mm-hmm.
agent, solo
Mm-hmm.
practitioner. And quite honestly, having somebody that's super detail orientated about how many phone calls have to be made and what we do and how we track it. It's our systems are super tight. We have different tools and CRMs that are locking things down, and we have accountability pieces that actually allow us to stay on point and make sure that we hold people that are on in this world on point. People come in this world that don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They just take off. I mean, we had a gentleman join us during COVID from the Four Seasons, and he's one of our top agents, and he's basically done this. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing to totally changing and growing. And when I had Phil Jones come speak to our team and flew Phil into Boston to actually train our team for exactly what to say, it was life changing for our team members because now we're talking the same language every single time that we do this. And we do scripting every Wednesdays after our team meetings on every Tuesdays. We do scripting, and it's around exactly what to say and how to
Mm-hmm.
say it. And so
Yep.
we take different topics and we go through those different things. And agents love that because they have some tools now that they can implement for the next week. And it's just it's a different experience. And I think people want that. They crave the knowledge to be better. And the people that want to be better want to be on our team. And
Which is great.
the people that don't want to do it, like with this interview, when the people, I'm like, here's what you should do. They're just like, I'm not doing that. I'm all
Which,
set.
which honestly, it's better for you to find out at the interview than 6 months later, because that's a bit of a pain in the rear end. When it
Yeah.
comes to your leadership style, how would you talk about, because obviously you're overseeing the overall team, you've got the director of operations overseeing the team as well. How does your leadership style work with all the different dynamics that you have your structure laid out?
In terms of what? Like, what are
Well,
you
how would
asking?
you label yourself as a leader? How would you see yourself as a leader? And I guess maybe the question is, how would your team see you as a leader? Are
All
they the
right.
same?
Well, I think I'm a caring leader. I want to help people grow. I'm I'm listen, I want to see people succeed, and we have high standards. We
Mm-hmm.
we we don't deviate from it. And as a leader, I want to be a positive influence in people's worlds, whatever that is. It doesn't mean it's just, and there's some things, listen, there's things that happen in your world that take you away from this, and that's okay as long as you can come back on and be on track. So whether it's a death or a birth or a marriage or some life issue that's taken on, whether it's a health related thing or something, like there's things that happen in everybody's life, and you have to be compassionate and have enough, emotional intelligence to be able to see through that and help people. And I think the more that you do that as a leader and the more that you lift people up, the better off you'll be. And I
Right.
think that the combination of the accountability and helping people lift them up, the better off you'll be. I mean, I'll give you a quick, for instance, one of our new team members, so super fired up for her first buyer consultation, where we have an extreme outline of what the consultation covers. So we have it documented so that this is what you start with saying when you first introduce the call. This is what the topics are that are going to be covered, and you email that to the client ahead of time. You then make sure that you talk about these different things with this language so that you can present how and what, and you ask a bunch of questions. The more questions you ask, the more in control of the conversation you are.
Mm-hmm.
You have those conversations and you ask enough of those questions, you'll be in the driver's seat. And so for that reason, we want to make sure that we have a whole structured process to it. But guess what? She got stood up on her first call.
Oh no. So
She's like, Sven, I'm
disappointment.
so excited. I'm so excited. Here we are. 2 minutes before the phone call, client called, texts her and says, I can't do this call today. Sorry, we have to reschedule. So what do? We pivot.
Hmm.
She did her first interview with me. I was the buyer client. We flipped it. We did the interview. We videotaped the interview. She used the outline that I gave her to start. We walked through it at a high level. We videotaped the interview back and forth. I was the buyer client. We walked through it. I didn't do anything or say anything. We went through the whole process. And then I said, here are the topics. Here's what you did great. Here's what we could be improved on. And here's where you overall succeeded at a high level. And we went through that whole process. And I said, it's videotaped. So now what you do is when you do this first interview, you have it recorded and it's spot on. So I gave the feedback and she called me today and she goes, I listened to it 3 times already to make sure that when I go through this process, I ask the right questions, and where the conversations might have been disjointed or disconnected, it's not anymore. So we
That's amazing.
pivot things,
Yep.
right? And I think it matters,
And that
right?
that actually takes me to my question. Like I was going to ask you about your successes in the team, and that I feel like that's a huge success in your team, but also the communication and how your team communicates with each other. It seems like it's a pretty open communication when it comes to your team members and yourself. So just because you have a director of operations does not mean you're no longer available, right? You guys work in partnership, basically. Does your team talk all the time? Like you mentioned your weekly meetings, and then you also have role play meetings. Are they separate? Like what kind of meetings does it look like on your team for
Yeah.
communication?
So every Tuesday we have we have a team agenda that's created, that's sent out, discussing what we're going to cover for the week. We talk about opportunities, we talk about challenges, we talk about successes, we talk about closings and transactions that move forward, and those are cheered upon. We lift each other up about those things. And those conversations make a difference and they matter. It's a very specific, very focused. I don't like meetings. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like this meeting. I don't think anybody does. They're like, yes, kind of horrible. And so when I was actually at a different company before, the company that we were at, Remax, I was at a different company before, and it was just such a like, I have to sit through this. Oh my God. I'm all about quick summary of what we've got, some of what we've got coming on, successes, challenges. We talk about the inventory. We talk about any topics that we've got to cover. We talk about events that we've got coming up. We do a client event. We have over 400 people come to our client event coming on in September. We talk about all these different things. We talk about when we're going to have a call night together as a team. We talk about all these different things, and we hammer it out within about an hour and 15 minutes. It's done
And then
every Tuesday.
do you guys have talked about training? Do you do training that's consistent? You brought Phil out, which is great.
Yeah.
And then what do you do regularly on a regular basis for training?
So every Wednesday we do scripting and role playing, and script and role playing is putting different people on the spot. You're the buyer,
Mm-hmm.
you're the seller, you're the
Mm-hmm.
listing agent, seller agent, like all those different things happen, and it's live in front of our team. No judgment, no negativity. It's only about lifting each other up and being like, we talk about giving feedback, and this is important. When you give feedback, you give something great to introduce, you give something that could be changed or tweaked, and you give something great at the end. So we sandwich everything when we give feedback, but it's a strategy that we put so that it's a positive place and an uplifting place to do those things. So in addition to that, I have team meetings with individuals twice a month. So in addition to that, our director of operations has a meeting with each person once a month. So there's overlap for people that are struggling or challenged, and we can actually have and hold them accountable and stay true to what we need to do to help them grow. And there's issues that we have to deal with all the time, and we do that. And as a
Right.
leader, your job,
Yeah,
I think.
lots of great communication opportunities, and also for you to see and find things because like you said, sometimes they don't know what they don't know to ask either. So
So
that's really
true.
interesting. Yeah.
When you ask somebody, what can I do to help you?
Mm.
That's too broad.
Yep.
Like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, well, let's break it down. Is it the phone calls? Is it the number of connections, dials? And for one of my team agents, it's not about connecting with people. It's not about signing a contract. It's not about anything else. It's about making sure that we talk about writing an offer after they see enough homes to be able to make sure that they write the right offer at the right level to get the offer accepted so that they can actually feel success because they wrote it at the right level instead of having the client tell them what they want to do. There's a conversation about it. And what I always say to people, you have to ask 3 times before you end the conversation about what it is that they want so that you can get clarity around it. You have to ask 3 times if that's the right price, but you have to ask it in 3 different ways, right? And you have to go 4 levels deep with a client to better understand what their real challenges are. So when you do those things, you get clarity around what it is and what's really important to them.
Well, and you provide training to your team, but you also provide training to the agent community as well too. We were just talking earlier about your negotiation course. Do you want to talk a little bit about that to give a little plug since we're on the topic of training?
Well, so one of the biggest things that I did is I love the negotiation process, and one of the things that I've done is to build a negotiation class. But what I've found is that I wanted to have some structure around it. So working with Phil Jones and exactly what to say, I've built and tied into the class that Phil's built, exactly what to say for negotiations for real estate agents. So I'm actually building that and I'm launching that already. I've actually taught it a couple times and I'm actually going to be teaching it again virtually so that people can register and learn a little bit more about it. And that negotiation class is really cool because we've taken some things from Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference courses and different topics, in addition to some of the information that I've taken from the Harvard negotiation program on negotiation at Harvard, which was life-changing. If somebody wants to take that class, it's a 2 to 3 day class at Harvard right here in Cambridge, Mass. And it is pretty amazing. So I've taken all these different things that I've learned and put it into this class. And it's really helped my team agents understand how to negotiate the right way to get more deals done. So I'm doing that's coming up.
That sounds like something really exciting. And when we first talked, we didn't talk. Yes, I'm a certified guide, but so is Sven, actually. So we're both in the same guide community. And I really appreciate your time today where you talked to us about your team, how your leadership works, how your structure works. I think it's really insightful for other teams to kind of hear. And I'm hoping that this podcast helps people, inspire them, gives them new energy when they come into their team. Maybe they're like, oh, I learned something today on this podcast I can now implement into my team. So stay tuned for another episode with Sven because we will continue on a conversation with him.
Love it. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.